Hey everyone, it's Hornby here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel here, and let's get back into my personal vlogs here. And this is definitely going to be another one of those rant kind of personal vlogs here. But here I am, up to number 61 here. I'm going to call this one Carbon Taxes BS and just a cash grab here. One of the YouTubers I like to watch is Cinemassacre. He's also known as the Angry Video Game Nerd. And one of the minor things that he's done in the past is the bullshit man, where he always opens up with, you know what's bullshit? I mean, he could still have that, but one idea that he could talk about is, you know what's bullshit? Carbon tax. Carbon tax is, as they say, BS. And just a tax grab here, as once again, here we are in Alberta, after we rejected the New Democratic Party, where they brought in the price on carbon, and the fact that they did not say they were going to bring that in back in 2015, when they surprisingly got elected, a majority in this province here. Well, the federal government imposed a carbon tax for all the other provinces in the country here, and when the UCP took over and won a majority here, and one of the things that they did was scrap the carbon tax because, as I say, it's BS and a tax grab here. And actually one country that subscribes to that theory is unfortunately in the news for the wrong reasons. Thoughts and prayers to Australia, as they're dealing with their wildfire situation. I mean, it's summer down there, but man, it is scary on how massive and big the wildfires are. However, the level of taxation that we pay to supposedly help the environment, those wildfires probably still be happening. Or the floods that unfortunately happened right here in Calgary almost 7 years ago, back in June 2013 here. But, it sounds good in theory that, well, we'll put a price on carbon where big emitters, they got to pay because, they say pollution is not free, and they'll give everybody else a rebate. That sounds good in theory. So is communism, and I don't believe in that either. But where it's just a tax grab and BS here is ultimately what happens is we all pay for it, and the lower and middle income people pay the most in taxes and get hit the hardest, because they say, well, it's an incentive to, make more environmentally conscious decisions. And I always, and even when I was brought up and learned I was younger there, and I remember in the 90s there was a show called Captain Planet, I believe, and it was an environmental superhero cartoon where you make environmentally conscious decisions and you always recycle, and I believe we should all do that. Make the best decision for the environment here. With all this talk about climate change, and yeah, it could be happening here, but it could also be just because of, normal weather patterns that's going on for, millions of years, the whole time the planet Earth is. Because wildfires, floods, so-called rising waters, it's happened for hundreds of years, long before we build cars and steam engines and that. But the thing it gets back to that's just a tax grab is that ultimately the big emitters, they're still going to be willing to pay, and the rich, they're not going to really change their behaviors that much, because the amount that they pay in taxes is much smaller of an impact than lower to middle income people here. Because essentially this carbon tax raises the prices of everything, and unfortunately, cars still need fuel, buses still need fuel, planes still need fuel, and where does it come from? Oil. And unfortunately, it also gets very, very cold in this country, especially right now with this deep freeze here, and I think heating buildings and homes, that's a necessity, not a luxury, but our government treats it like it's a luxury, and we should tax the hell out of it. And then on top of that, with the carbon tax, when you pay for fuel, heat your home, they got to charge a tax on the tax, and the goods and services tax. So that's even more of a cash grab here. But then getting back to the the whole, well, the big emitters, but we'll charge them prices to pollute the air. But all you guys, it's a good thing that we are charging this tax, because you're going to get some money back. Yeah, bragging us with our own money. But when fuel costs more, goods and services, they got to go on said vehicles, trucks, buses, planes, whatever. What powers those guys? Oh yeah, gasoline, diesel, oil. And then if they have to pay more to transport said goods that we consume, or transport the fuel so we can run our vehicles, because Canada is also big. One of the biggest countries in the world here. And we're all not going to walk for months at a time to go to the other side of the country. So those prices go up. So the cost of goods are going to have to go up. Cost of heating your home goes up. Everything keeps going up here. And then eventually, this tax, all these big companies, if they got to charge more for taxes, you know what? They're always going to look elsewhere where it's cheaper to run their business. So ultimately, that kills jobs here. And then also this so-called rebate that we get. Well, of course, that all gets eaten up with redundant government jobs here that they got to figure out those rebates. And you know how they figure out these rebates, in air quotes here, is the fact they figure out, well, this is what 95% of people make. So what we do is we got to pick a number so that you gross just a little more than that, so you don't get a rebate. And then if you're below that, well, you're screwed. We'll just throw you a quarter, because when the cost of everything goes up, jobs leave, and it makes it harder for employers to create jobs because there's no incentive here. I mean, unfortunately, it just rises the cost for everyone else. And who gets hit the hardest? Most people like you and me, who are lower in income, middle income here, because fortunately, we still need to heat our homes, our businesses. We still need our fuel to transport these goods here. I mean, we need to eat and consume just to live and drink water. And I mean, it's not a wealth distribution at all. I mean, it's just a tax grab here. And I think, if I remember, one of the Canadian provinces that was promising to scrap the provincial carbon tax, eventually the federal carbon tax hammers it on, and that's why they're fighting Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, and New Brunswick, thinking it's unconstitutional just to have a government slap another government with a so-called cash grab. And I think I remember in a debate that the province, maybe this is an old classic saying that your hand was caught in the cookie jar here, that Ontario said we were going to get rid of the carbon tax, and then the opposition parties came back and said, yeah, that means we've got to lay off 40,000 healthcare professionals here. Well, wasn't this carbon tax supposed to fund, green incentives to supposedly, build solar plants, wind farms? And the thing is, those don't generate as much energy as coal and oil, so you need a lot of plot of land to build these solar farms on, just to not produce as much. And those wind turbines, they're everywhere. And those big blades, sometimes they kill birds. How come we don't hear anything about that? But yet, anything coal and oil, I mean, well, obviously we should always try to find alternatives to, fund many sources of energy here. But the fact that, the level of taxation is not going to control the weather. That's what the government likes to tell us, that we like to think, oh, we just got to keep giving them money, and they're going to stop this climate change and slow it down and blah, blah, blah. The level of taxation is not going to control the weather, because floods, fires, hot weather, very cold weather, because even they say global warming, so well, with these much, much colder winters, that's all part of climate change, and all the air we blow. I mean, that's all part of it, even though, these hot records and cold records that sometimes we hit happened over 100 years ago, yeah, before, cars and SUVs and trains were invented, didn't blame climate change then. So, yeah, it's just BS and a tax grab here. And, another thing too with Canada, we're a big country. We have not as much population here. We have lots of trees that absorb CO2 and produce oxygen, essentially the air that we need to breathe here. You almost have to say we're almost carbon neutral because we clean up most of the carbon naturally then supposedly produced here. So why do we need to pay a so-called carbon tax as an incentive to change our ways when in fact we have the technology and resources to find ways to produce cleaner air with coal and oil and do it ethically? Well, you got bigger countries in the world that always have air quality advisories because they have too much of that, unhealthy air there. Where's the carbon tax there? Believe that propaganda there. And even in the States, when you look online here, they talk about this carbon tax thing, and the more you think about it, the dumber it gets because, as I keep saying, the level of taxation isn't going to control the weather here, and it's just at the end of the day just more taxes to the government to blow on whatever here and just make everyone else poorer and poorer. And then they wonder why people are in debt and not getting ahead and saving for retirement here. Because you slap taxes on absolutely everything and then you charge taxes on top of the tax here. And I definitely don't see a point in this carbon tax here, as ultimately it's a tax on everything, brings the cost of living up, and that's always been a problem, and it keeps getting worse is that we're all working harder and more productive than ever, but not getting ahead because pay is not keeping up with everything else going up, and including taxes, and that's what this carbon tax does. So what do you think about it? Is it just BS and a cash grab here? I don't want to hear people say, oh, it's a great thing, and people come ahead here, because I've noticed the province immediately west of us, that was the first province that brought in a carbon tax here. I noticed everything was a lot more expensive there, and gas prices cost 30 cents a lot more there. Then if you get into Vancouver, it's like 40 cents more than it is here in Calgary. And the fact that, everything costs more. And on top of that, they charge a PST here. And yet they're in more debt than other provinces here. And that's the other thing this province always says, that we need a provincial sales tax to pay down the debt here. So yeah, because like all the other provinces in the country also have a PST, and they're debt-free too. I don't think so. So yeah, this is just kind of my rant. Carbon tax is just BS and the cash grab here, and doesn't control the weather. It's not going to stop wildfires. It's not going to stop, levels rising. And you even see pictures where you see the same spot over 100 years ago and today, and the water levels are still the same here. So, I do believe we should recycle and try to reuse as much things as possible here, but don't charge taxes on it and punish everybody else so in the process here, because it's not that we're stubborn and we don't want to change our ways. It's the fact that, unfortunately, it's a cold country. We need to heat our homes and businesses here, and yeah, it's a great invention, the combustion engine here. We still find ways, but even then, electric cars are not that much more environmentally friendly when the amount of resources it costs made to build it and the amount of carbon it made to build it. And oh yeah, a lot of our energy is made by coal. So when you plug in an electric car from coal-powered electricity, yeah, how much cleaner are you there? So yeah, that's just kind of my light rant on the carbon tax. I'm glad we have politicians that, make sense and are fighting this thing. And I say Australia, they implemented a carbon tax and realized it's BS and a cash grab and got rid of it here. And those wildfires, unfortunately, would still happen even if Australians were paying up to their nose in taxes on a carbon tax there, because wildfires and floods and other natural disasters, they've happened for hundreds of years, and it's just a made-up fun here. So yeah, personal blogs is just one of the things I do on my YouTube channel, but of course I mostly do Calgary sports here, and so if you enjoy everything I do on my YouTube channel, just make sure you hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to follow along here. And I just say, what do your take on this thing? I think I'm in the majority here that it just doesn't make sense. The more you think about it, it's dumb. It's just even more stupid, and it's the opposite of Robin Hood, where here we give from the poor and give to the rich here, and that's essentially what it is. So anyway, I'll see you in the next video here.